Alright everyone, welcome to another tutorial here on Script.Tutorials on YouTube. My name is Ray and I'm the host of this channel. We're going to be going over some, this is going to be, I guess, the second episode of the C# Fundamental series, where in this series, we're just going over the fundamentals of C#, going over how variables work, methods work. Now, in the last video, you don't have to watch that video. It's not a prerequisite. I'm trying to make sure that these videos that I do, you can watch at any order. However, it definitely helps to watch them in order. That way you at least have a refresher as to what we did last. But what we did last is we worked on methods and also variables. And today we're going to be working on a calculator that basically returns information to the user. So let's get started on this. Now, as always, I'm gonna be typing code. Don't worry, I will explain what we're doing line by line, just that way you're aware. And I ask that you have patience because not everyone understands what's happening. You might be, easier to your comprehension skills might be better than others. So again, if I'm explaining things, if you need to skip ahead, you can. Highly recommend you watch the entirety, because even if you're experienced or you're intermediate, you might actually find some extra knowledge here. So let's get started. So the very first thing when we're creating a calculator is, well, we want to input some data to the person that's using the calculator. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, welcome to adding calculator, because that's what we're going to be doing. And let's just call this version 1. Now, of course, this is going to be a very basic calculator. Again, in this series that we're doing, which is the C# Fundamental series, this is just fundamental knowledge of C#. Of course, later on into the future, we're going to do a different series that's not the fundamentals of C#. That's going to be more intermediate to advanced. But again, I think this can be useful for those that are new and starting with C#, or maybe you're migrating from from like a different language. So we've gone ahead and told the user here that, hey, welcome to adding calculators. This is just our welcome message. So I'm just going to put a comment here, welcome message to the user. And the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a console dot, not write line, but actually write. So in here, we're going to tell the user to enter the first number. So enter first number. Okay, so again, displaying text to have the user type the first number. Now you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, why did you do console.write instead of console.writeLine? And you'll see here, actually, I can run it real quick. Nothing's going to happen, but see how it looks like. Well, let me actually do this real quick. Just to kind of visualize it. It's going to be better for you to visualize it than me explain it. So if I'm having the user type in their first number, it looks better this way, where it says, and again, this is the line that it's showing right now. So it's console.write. So we're using the console class, and we're accessing the method called write, and we're displaying enter first number, right? So if I were to do console.writeLine instead, I think it looks a bit ugly, for lack of a better word. So watch, this is how it looks like right now when we did just console.write. If I close this out and I run the updated code, it's going to say enter first number, but now the input is down here, and we don't want it down there. So if you're ever getting input from someone, just do console.write. I think it looks cleaner. Okay, so that was just a quick little segue into what we need to do next, actually, which is actually saving what they're typing in. So remember, when we do console.write, all that's doing is displaying text, right? So this isn't saving anything. That's what we need to do now, is we need to save that number. So what we'll do here is we're going to create a double. Now, we talked about doubles in the last video. A double is a variable. It's actually a data type, and with doubles you can store integers and you can store decimals. So I don't want this calculator to just be limited to just whole numbers. I want to make sure that the person can do decimals as well. So like, 5.6 or 1.2 or 0.0001 plus 6, right? So we're going to do double. And so we're going to name this double variable, and you can name this whatever you want, but I'm just going to do double, let's do first number, actually. So this is going to be the first number, and we're going to equal that. So we're going to assign first number, a double, which is going to be called first number, to console, which is a class, dot read line. Now, you're going to get an error message because C# is saying, uh-oh, wait a minute, console.readLine, it only works on strings. So, for example, I'm going to type in string here. See how that works? And I wish C# was better, where you could actually utilize integers and doubles and floats for the console.readLine. So, a string, though, is only text. So we could do this, but the thing is, though, if we just do string, we're not going to be able to actually do arithmetic, which is, adding numbers together. We would just, just save it as a text, right? There's a difference between the number one and the text as one, right? So in order to have this work the way that we want it to work, we're going to change this back to double because that was just an example. And instead of doing console.readLine, which we are actually going to use, we're actually going to do convert dot, and actually IntelliSense is thinking the right way that we're thinking right now. So we're going to convert what the person's going to type to a double, and we're going to do console.readLine, and I noticed I did an extra parentheses there. And I can go there, and lastly, there. There we go. Okay, let me summarize real quick, because I know this can be confusing. We did the same exact thing. We did console.readLine as it should. However, we need to do console.readLine, and whatever they type in, we need to convert it to a double. Okay, so think about I'm sure maybe in elementary school and middle school you learned order of operations, PEMDAS, right? What's the very first rule of PEMDAS? Parentheses. So we look at parentheses in code, and the first parentheses is the code's gonna do first, and then it's gonna do the rest, right? So the first thing it's gonna do is gonna read the line as to what you're typing or what the person's typing, then it's going to convert it to a double, okay? Now, if we were to just do an integer, and again, this is just for your sake, I just want to make sure you understand this. If we do an integer instead, this isn't going to work because we can't convert an integer to a double. So what we would do here, well, you can, but it's different. Instead of doing 2 double, we would do 2 int 32. So same exact thing. This would work. And you'll notice when you access the convert class, you're going to be given, like, once you do the dot, you get given, you're given so much information here that you can, try to do. But again, we're going to convert to a double. And the very first thing, why is this not working here? Oh, it's because we still have it set as an int. Again, that was an example. So this is what we need. So again, what is this doing? This is creating a double variable and assigning it on user input. Sorry, I had to pause the video for just a second. That's why you might have seen a little gap there. So all I did here was just, again, giving you a quick explanation. I could be a bit more technical that it's converting it technically from a string, but I'm not going to bore you with the details there. So again, we're creating a double variable, which is what we're doing here, called first name, which I'm going to do called first name, first number, and we're assigning it based on the user input, which is what this equal sign is equal to. So next thing we're going to do now, and this is just for pure aesthetics, is we're going to clear the console. So we're going to clear the console. You don't have to do this. However, I think it looks a lot cleaner, and you'll see this in post-production in just a second. So now that we've cleared the console, we're going to do another console.WriteLine, and now we're going to do a confirmation. This is just because I like doing this, and I'm going to do here, you entered, and then we're going to do this. And again, give me a second. I will explain what is happening here. And no, it's not 0. They did not enter 0. Who knows? Actually, they might have entered 0. Cool. So what's happening here? So we are writing a line, and in that line, we're providing it a string that says you entered, and then semicolon, and then space, and then you have this little squiggly line, and then a 0, and then another squiggly line here, or like I guess you can call it a bracket. I'm not sure what the technical term is, but this 0 is an index number. This will make more sense when we actually start talking about indexes, but essentially in computers, this will be considered the first index. Or index 0. That's the first element, the first position. So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, you entered, and I wanted to provide the first number in here. So you'll notice here, if I run the code real quick, I'm just gonna type in the number 5 and then enter. See how it says you entered 5? So what it's doing is we're creating a WriteLine method, and we're just saying you entered, and in here we're saying, hey, put first number where this 0 should be, and that's why we're accessing it with a comma, right? So you entered, and then again the index 0, and then first number. And we're actually and if there was more information we wanted to put, then we could do, like, 1 here, and then we can do 2 here, and we only have one variable. But if we wanted to put something here in 1, we would then, like, let's say we created another variable called second number. I know it's going to show an error because we haven't created it, but you'll notice that if we did have a variable called second number will then be assigned to 1. And if we had a third number will be assigned to 2. So that's how code works when it comes to, again, accessing a certain index. And you'll actually see an example here in just a moment when we actually calculate everything. You'll see all of that in action. So hopefully if you don't understand it now, you'll understand it in just a moment. So again, that's what we've done so far. We've created a WriteLine method, and just, again, getting confirmation of what the user has entered. And I just did that quick little comment for you there in case you want to recap in just a moment. And then we're going to do another console.WriteLine. And in this console.WriteLine, or actually, we're not even going to do WriteLine, because again, now we're going to go ahead and get the second number, actually. So we're going to do, and again, the reason we're not doing console.WriteLine is we're about to get input from the user, right? So we don't want to do a WriteLine, we want to do write. And I gave you that example in the very early beginning of the video. Again, it just looks a lot better when we do write when we're trying to get input from the user. So we're going to go ahead and do enter. If I can spell enter correctly, enter second number, and we're gonna go ahead and do same as before. So we're gonna do double second number is equal, and the IDE did it to me, or did it for me automatically. But you'll see here that this is the same exact code that we're running. The only difference is instead of first number, it's gonna be second number. So we're creating a double called second number, and we are assigning it to what the person has typed, and then converting that to a double because it's by default a string. So, and I'm just gonna copy this comment here just to kind of keep it simple for you. And now we're also gonna go ahead and do a console.clear, again, just to clear everything. So now we're gonna go ahead and write the actual result. Now, technically we would do console.WriteLine and then give the person the result. However, we're going to do this in a method, and we're going to call a method that we're going to create called calculate. So we're going to create a static method, and I'll explain what that is in just a moment, so don't freak out. We're going to do double, because it's going to return a double, and then we're going to call it, let's say, calculate. And for the parameters, we're going to require that it provide us a double first number. Again, I'll explain all of this in just a second. A double, let's do a second number. And then we're going to go ahead and create the actual code here. Now we're just going to return, and this is where we actually do the actual calculation, the actual arithmetic. We're going to add first number plus the second number. So we're going to, again, in just a second, we're going to, again, provide, or I'm going to give you another explanation as to what's happening. But essentially, we've created a new method within the program class, right? And when you create a method, remember, a method is a certain function that your code does, okay? So what we're doing in here is all it's doing is it's calculating what the person has entered. So a static method, the reason we use the word static is we need to make sure that we can access the calculate method from the main method. Because remember, when the code runs, it's running what's in the main method, right? And this is the only thing it's running. So in order for us to, knock on the door and say, hey, calculate, I need you to do this certain work, we need to make sure that it's static. Again, if we don't include static, we're not going to be able to access calculate outside of the main method in here. Okay, so we now know what static is, and again, more information, we'll go more into that later on in different videos. That involves more object-oriented programming, but so that's the static keyword. Double is going to be what we're returning. So see here the keyword return. So once we calculate everything, we're telling the method called calculate, and you can name this whatever you want. I just called it calculate. You could call it, whatever. But this is, we're telling it, hey, we're going to return a double. So this is what the return is going to be, is a double. And speaking of doubles, we need to make sure that when you call the calculate method, we need to make sure that you pass over a double and also another double, because we're adding two numbers. Now, you could technically name the parameters the same as what you have in the main method. So see how first number is also called first number up here, and then second number is also called second number over here, right? However, here's the thing. When you create variables, which we created a double called first number and a double called second number, it's only going to be recognized in the method that you're in. So this main method, which is provided by this curly bracket and this other curly bracket, the first number only exists within here, where it's highlighted. This second number only exists here. So me, as someone that might look at this code later on, I like to just tell myself, hey, although these are named the same and it doesn't really matter, I just like, again, from my perspective, to just put a underscore in front of it, and it's also common practice. So in order to call calculate, we need to make sure that we provide a double as the first argument, and then another double as the second argument. And so these are the parameters that it requires. And then once we have that information, we're gonna go ahead and add first number plus, this is the actual math part, the second number, and we're gonna return that back to the main method. So how do we do that? So we're gonna do a console.writeLine. And there's actually several ways to do that, actually. So you could do it, for example, an easy way would just be to do a double. So we're creating a third double now. And this is actually just going to be called result. So this is, I'm just going to call it a final result. And that's going to be equal to calculate. And remember, in order to access calculate, see how there's an error? In order for us to access calculate, we need to provide it a double and another double, which is going to be saved to these ones in here. Now, what doubles do we provide it? Well, let's provide it first number and second number, because that's what we want to calculate. So we're going to provide it first number and second number. And what it's going to do is we're going to call calculate. So again, we're creating a double called final result, right? So right now, final result is equal to 0, right? There's no value right now. But we are initializing that. We are assigning this final result to calculate the first and the second number. So we're calling calculate. And we're going to go ahead and what's happening is this first number here is putting it here. This second number is putting it here. And then what it's doing is it's adding the first plus the second, and it's returning that data. So let's say that the user has entered 1 as their first number and 2 as their second number. So now what's happening is we're assigning this underscore first number to 1. And then the underscore second number to 2. And so we're doing 1 plus 2. And then we're returning that information. And what we're returning that to is this double that we created, which is called final result. So now what we could do is just do a console.writeLine and just type in here final result. So let's give this a try. I'm going to go ahead and save the code, Control S, and then we're going to run the console application. So here it's going to tell me enter your first number. So enter first number. So I'm going to go ahead and do, let's say, 1.5. And now it's going to tell me here, you entered 1.5. And it cleared the screen, right? Because see how we did a console.clear here? So what's going to happen now is it's going to tell us enter the second number. So that second number, let's say that we want to do 2.5. And now the final answer is 4. Now, I think that looks ugly, right? I don't think that looks presentable. Well, I mean, it's correct. It did its job. We could just end it now, right? And call it quits. But I like to take it a step above normal, right? So I'm not actually going to do this. Now, again, you could do this. Again, this double final result is equal to the calculate method first and second number, and it'll work just fine. However, what I want to do is I want to do this instead. So we're going to do a console.writeLine, and in this console.writeLine, we're going to do the same thing that we did before. If you remember the zeros that we did here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a quotation mark here, and we're going to do, so the position 0 plus position 1 is equal to position 2 of the element. So what's going to happen now is we're going to do a comma here, and we need to assign, hey, what should we display as 0, where 0 would be, and then where 1 would be, and where 2 would be? Well, we're going to do a comma here, and we're going to go ahead and do first number, so these shown first, second number, so these shown first, and now we need to call the calculate method, which is what we did before here. Remember how we did the final result double that we just deleted because I thought it was ugly? It just showed 4. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do calculate, and we're going to pass along first number and the second number. Now watch this. I'm going to save this. We're going to run the application. And look at the difference. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. So 1.5. It's going to ask us for the second number. So we're going to do 2.5. And look at that. It says here 1.5 plus 2.5 is equal to 4. Before we did this, all it did was tell us 4, right? So what we're doing here is where this 0 is, where this curly bracket 0 curly bracket is, we're telling it to put the first number here. And then we're going to say plus, right? And then where second number is, so we did another comma. So second number is going to be where 1 is. And then we're going to call the calculate method. and then actually put that where 2 is here. Now again, we have to always start with 0. Well, the way computers work is 0 is technically 1. So you would think that, well, wait a minute, wouldn't it just make sense to do 1, 2, and 3? Well, if we try doing that, it's actually going to throw an error. It's not even going to run. So watch this. 1, 2, and there it is. We got an error, and it says here, system.form that exception. Index 0 must be greater than or equal to the argument list. So again, in order for us to display that information, this needs to be 0, this needs to be 1, and this needs to be 2. So this 0 is equal to first number, this 1 here is equal to second number, and then this 2 is actually going to run the math here, which is going to the calculate method. So I've gone ahead and wrote a little some extra comments here for you, and I actually just rearranged. It's the same code. I just added some extra comments. That way you can pause the video, and if you want some clear, some of you are some of you are the visual learners, or if you read something, it might make a little bit more sense. So just to kind of add some perspective, we're gonna go through this one more time just to reemphasize what everything is doing. Okay, this is good practice to do whenever you're writing code. So first things first, console.writeLine. This is the welcome message to the user. Second line here is console.write, and this is going to display text to have the user type the first number. And then double first number is equal to convert dot to double, and then of course the very first thing is we're reading the line and then we're converting. So again, this is creating a double variable called first number, and then we're assigning it based on the user input, right? Perfect. And then we're going to clear the console. Again, you don't have to clear the console, but I think it looks better if you don't clear it. It's just a bunch of data, and again, it just looks ugly. So again, that just clears the console screen. Then we do another console.writeLine, and it says here you entered, and then your placeholder, and then this is what was going to replace the placeholder 0. So again, the 0 is a placeholder, and it is replaced with the value of the first argument, in this case first number, and this is the argument. So it's replacing the 0 with first number, which is whatever they just entered. So again, this is just a confirmation saying, hey, you entered this. You technically don't need to type in this code, but again, I think it looks and it adds some extra value. So same thing here, enter your second number. So again, this is just having this is just displaying text again, like it did up here. Now again, we're going to create yet another double variable called, and actually this will be second number, and we are assigning it based on the user input. So same thing, and then of course we are clearing. Lastly, in terms of what's happening in main, we are creating a console.writeLine, and we have the following that's happening. So again, the very first thing that's happening is the 0, 1, and 2, which is this 0, 1, and 2, are placeholders that are replaced with the values of the arguments passed to the method. And then lastly, the calculate method is called, and its result is passed to the third argument, and this is the third argument. So this is the first argument, which is set to 0. Well, it's going to replace what this 0 thing is here. And then this is the second argument, which is where this 1 would be. And then this calculate first and then second number, this is the third argument, which is where this 2 is going to go to. And then a quick little explanation here. And again, we're calling this calculate method, and we're sending first number, which is what the user provided. So we're sending second number, again, what the user provided. And we're saving it to underscore first number, underscore second number, and we're adding these two and returning it back to what this is here, this 2. So again, the static keyword indicates that the method is a static method. If we were to remove static, this will not work. If we try to run it, it will not work. So static is there. And again, we'll go more in detail about static later on in future videos that involve object-oriented programming. Double is the keyword that indicates that the method will return a value, and the type of that return value is a double. So again, we're returning a double. If we were to type in void, we're going to get an error because ultimately we're having to return something back to the main method. So again, we're not doing void, we're doing double. And then the name of the method, we called it calculate. You can name it whatever you want to. And then, of course, we're creating a new double within this method here. We're creating a new double called underscore first name, underscore second name, which is what we're passing over through its arguments, first number and second number. And then, of course, the return keyword causes the method to exit and return the result of the expression to the calling code, and the calling code is this area here, which we're assigning it to this number 2 placeholder, which is technically the third placeholder. And then, of course, in this case, the result is the sum of the 2 input parameters, which is underscore first number plus underscore second number, and returning that data. So again, we'll run this one more time just to make sure that everything works correctly. Again, enter first number. We're going to go ahead and do, let's say, 80. Enter your second number, 20. So this should be 100. There it is. 80 plus 20 is equal to 100. And that is our basic, very basic, but I think very powerful, because at the end of the day, you're learning information. You're learning how code works, and later on, again, this is just the C# fundamentals series. I'm gonna create series later on into the future that cover more advanced topics, where maybe the user can continue entering several inputs, and then they can just type in something like the word done whenever they're ready to calculate everything, right? But again, this gives you a better idea how methods work, how a return type works, how parameters and arguments and placeholders work, and how converting using the convert class works to your advantage. I hope this helped. I hope that you at least understood what's happening. I'm going to include this code for you in the description below. It's going to be in a paste-bin link. So it's going to be on pastebin.com, where you can just copy and paste it over to Visual Studio, and you should be able to run it. However, I encourage that you write it word for word and you understand what's happening. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting if you found this useful. And until next time.